Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Today we have another set of excellent stories, and our first story. What about this one? I get mistaken for an employee rather often since I work as a barista in a coffee shop inside a bookstore, but we do not belong to the bookstore. I like to check out books or sales either after or before my shift, so I know the basic layout of the bookstore but nothing else. Employees of the bookstore do not have a uniform, only a name tag, meaning if you don't have a purse with you, you're deemed fair game. For the most part, people are nice, apologize, and I point them towards someone who can help. Sometimes things get weird. Once again, my shift was over for the day, and the bookstore had a nice sales/damaged inventory table downstairs, so I decided to mosey down to see it and see if there was anything interesting for my home library. As always, the table was stacked high with literal book towers, and the place was a mess. I have a certain system to my browsing, which often makes it seem like I work there. People ask, I say no, problem solved. Except for one very special lady. Excuse me, I have a 16-year-old daughter and I'm trying to find her a nice birthday present. She likes crime, historical, and drama. Is this something for her? She shows me a copy of Stephen King's Joyland. I'm sorry, I don't work here, so I can't help you much, but I can tell you that's a horror novel. The lady over there with the name tag can help you. Will she like it? I don't know. I enjoy horror, but that's not one of the genres you mentioned that she likes. I'm sure the lady with the name tag over there can help you with that. At this point, I decided I'd better move to the other side of the table and get away from her. I had a bad feeling. I bent down and kept on browsing, minding my own business and shuffling books around, when suddenly I had a book thrust right in front of my face. Oh, what about this one? I look up to see her leaning over the table, straining to hold the book in front of me, and effectively blocking another lady from looking at the books in front of her. I don't know. I haven't read it. I'm sure the lady with the name tag could tell you. I ignored her and went on browsing. Not even a minute later, I had the next book in my face. I look up and there she is, straining over the table, again blocking the lady next to her with a confused but determined look on her face. I don't know. I don't work here. How about you ask the lady over there? Once again, I go back to ignoring her and looking through books. Not even 30 seconds later, and I have a third book under my nose. I look up, and there she is in all her glory, leaning over the table, blocking the other lady. Now her facial expression is one of pure determination. What about this one? I do not know. I do not work here. Please ask for help. At this point, I wasn't sure if she was dense, dumb, or just plain crazy. She looks me in the eye, drops the book back on the table, and grabs another one, and once again holds it in front of me. She never broke eye contact with me. She never looked at what she picked up. I'm not kidding. What about this one? I don't work here. I don't know. The next 5 books were in rapid succession. She stared me in the face, dropped each book again, and picked up the next one and held it in front of me without looking at it. Each time. What about this one? I'd had it at that point. No! With increasing emphasis and volume on my part, she never changed her tone of voice or volume. It was like a robot. I was about to flee the scene of insanity and postpone my book shopping for another day since I didn't want to deal with this nut job, when the lady standing next to her, who kept getting blocked, pretty much flipped her crap. For Christ's sake, she said she doesn't work here. Shut up and leave the girl alone, and go find some help. You're in my way and annoying me. The annoying old biddy stared at her in shock and decided to scamper off to another part of the bookstore without a word, and with the last book still clutched in her grip. Thank you. I wasn't quite sure how to react without seeming rude. Sweetie, you have to grow a backbone. Growing up means fending for yourself. You just need to learn and practice it. Look after yourself first. That was my first year in the cafe, and the moment I learned a valuable lesson. That time, I impersonated an entire company. I recently read a couple phone number-based IDWHL stories and thought I'd share my own here. About a year after I returned home from the military, I moved out of my home state, got an apartment, new local cell number, etc. Fast forward a few years, and all of a sudden I start getting a ton of late-night calls from a bunch of random Indians. Dots, not feathers. trying to use a calling card they'd bought to call back home. Throughout the whole process of trying to inform everyone calling me that they had the wrong number, my demeanor toward the customers ranged from aggravation to kindness. I even find the customer service number for the issuing company and explain to them what's happening with zero help. So one day I get the idea to mess with these guys. I put on my best automated robot voice for the next caller. Please enter your PIN number. Beep, burp, boop, beep. Please enter the number you wish to call. Burp, beep, boop, beep. Then I hang up. After a couple times of this, I assumed they'd realized they were dialing the wrong number because I stopped getting calls from that number. But eventually someone else would call and I'd change it up a little bit. I'm sorry, we are experiencing technical difficulties. To reach customer service, please press 1 now. Beep. For Spanish, press 1. For Canadian, press 2. For Japanese, press 3. To hear these options again, press 9. I can speak just enough Japanese and Spanish to fake it, so I'd repeat the line in Spanish, Canadian, and Japanese where appropriate before making a beep sound signaling the caller to choose their customer service purgatory. And really, I've never seen or heard an Indian speak Spanish or Japanese, so I felt I was pretty safe here. They'd dial 9 or yell English at the phone a couple of times before eventually hanging up. This arms race kept going, and eventually I graduated from automated robot voice to fake customer service. I apologize, sir/madam, but our automated service is down right now. We're working on it, but in the meantime, I can try to connect you manually if you like. They'd give me their destination number and PIN number every time. I could have used so many free phone cards this way, but never did. Instead, we would get disconnected after I pretended to have the other line on my end and say, "Hold on 1 second while I connect you with your loved one." I asked some of them to take an over-the-phone survey. One guy even said yes. I couldn't believe it. I know I asked the stupidest questions. There was no way I could have been prepared for this, but I only remember asking, "How tall are you?" Anyway, eventually the calls slowed to only 1 every couple months, and they're now basically non-existent. They have a reserved table, but they're smelly hippies. Finally, I have a story. On mobile, yada yada yada. A little bit of context. I'm on holidays in a small rural town that's known to be popular with those living an alternative lifestyle and hippies. It's not really my jam, but the town's lovely and it's close to all the beautiful hikes in the area that I came here to do. So I'm at a cafe that is absolutely packed. As it's a public holiday and school holidays in Australia, it's one of the few businesses open in the small town, and there's only 1 table unoccupied, but it's been reserved. I've been sitting at the bar-like seats designed for single diners near the window. I head to the counter to pay and wait in line behind a family. It's a mom, EB, dad, D, and 2 kids. And you can tell from the way they're dressed, they're tourists passing through. I hear EB start yelling at the cashier and tune in. "What do you mean there's no free tables?" "Sorry, ma'am, we get quite busy on public holidays. You're welcome to give me your name and number and I'll reserve the next open table." EB looks around the cafe and spots the reserve table. "Well, what about that one? That's free." "Unfortunately, that's already been reserved." The dad's obviously over it and tugs on his wife's arm. "We'll just find somewhere else." "No, they have a free table." She then storms over to the reserve table and sits down. "We'll eat here, thank you. Just give these people the next table." The cashier pokes her head into the kitchen and comes out with the owner. "Ma'am, I'm the owner. Unfortunately, you can't sit here. I've personally had this table reserved for 2 weeks." EB. "We will eat here, and then when your people come, they can wait for us to finish. We're here now." "This table's booked for 1 p.m., ma'am. You won't have time to eat." It was like 12:50 at the time. "We are paying customers." "I think the only other place to eat in town on this day will be less busy. They just opened at noon." The dad and 2 kids are still waiting in front of me, and eventually another cashier comes to the counter and asks them to move so she can serve me. I decide to get a coffee for the road so I can hear what happens. As I'm ordering, the fight continues between EB and O, and everyone in the cafe is listening. I stand near the takeaway coffee counter and keep listening too. As I settle in, a group of 3 people come in, a woman in her 30s, a man and a woman in their 60s, all dressed in alternative clothing, and the 2 women have dreadlocks. They go to the counter, and as it turns out, they are the ones with the reservation. The owner turns, sees them, and recognizes them. The people who have this table reserved have arrived. You need to move immediately. EB looks at the group of people waiting and scoffs. You've got to be effing kidding me. You're throwing us out for people like that? Excuse me? Look at them. They probably can't even pay. Effing hippies. Everyone is staring at this woman, especially because this is a vegan cafe and 85% of the people in the cafe look very similar. The owner goes red in the face. Get out of my business now. You chose nasty, smelly hippies over us? That is my wife and my parents you're talking about. Get out! EB goes white and her face drops. The entire cafe is watching. But, out! EB slowly gets up and walks towards the door. As she's walking out, I hear the owner's mom say, if you don't want to be around smelly hippies, I'd recommend effing off to the next town, love. The owner apologized to everyone for the disturbance, and the wife and parents sat down to eat. British I Don't Work Here. Wanted to share my typically British experience of IDWHL, as it seems so many of our US cousins are really horrible Karens, and thought you guys should get to see how different it is here. This happened on Saturday. I was in Boots, the chemist, at one of their larger shops looking for some perfume for my wife when an old lady, must have been 90 if she was a day, comes up to me. Can you show me where the hand cream is, please? I'm sorry, love, but I don't work here. Oh dear, there's never anyone around, is there? They're all on the tills or in the pharmacy. Tell you what, let's go have a look together. After finding the hand creams and other more questionable emollients, thank you, young man. That's no problem. You've made my day. It's been a long time since anyone called me young man. Well, you're young compared to me. Thank you again. Let's hope there's someone at the tills now. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.